With reports coming in that Avalanche is now preparing to launch its dev cycle for Hogwarts Legacy 2, I'd like us to take a moment to consider what that sequel needs. Hello crows and non-crows alike, my name is Joe Mack, otherwise known as Support Crow, and today I'm giving you 5 things Hogwarts Legacy 2 needs to have. Number 1. Import our choices. If we assume that Hogwarts Legacy 2 takes place in the next year of our original protagonist, then we need some way to import our choices from the first game to the next one. Luckily, there's not that many choices in Hogwarts Legacy that have a major impact, so the dreaded burden of consequence is not that heavy to carry over. What should be carried over is our choice concerning Sebastian Sallow, our choice from the final repository, and our character data, which should include our Hogwarts house, our wand, and what our character looks like. Loading in character data is pretty straightforward, but when it comes to the narrative points, this can easily be done via conversation with an NPC. You could also select your choices during character creation. Thankfully, I do not see a need to have a Dragon Age Keep situation, where you log all of your choices into a separate website and then load the entire world state when you start a new game. Number 2. Explore London. In the first game, we got a great taste of what the Wizarding World was like in the late 1800s in the Scottish Highlands. But it's now time to see what a Wizarding World late 1800s London looks like. Diagon Alley was built in the 1500s, so we should see the famed Wizarding Shopping Center in the sequel along with its trademark establishments. Gringotts Wizarding Bank, Ollivanders, and the Leaky Cauldron. Functionally, Diagon Alley can act as the main shop center for London, just like Hogsmeade is for the Highlands. Every school year starts with you getting your school supplies, so I fully expect to see good old Ollivander while I go looking for my textbooks.
Welcome, Harry, to Diagon Alley. Here's where you get your quills and your ink.
The Ministry of Magic also calls London its home, and if the story of the game wants to include the Ministry, then we'll have to go to London anyway. And last but not least, you also have King's Cross Station. We should finally board the Hogwarts Express and travel back and forth between London and the Highlands, assuming we don't use flu powder. And just as Avalanche created all the connective tissue that binds the Highlands and Hogwarts together, I expect to see that same expert creativity when it comes to building London. I want to interact with Muggle Society as much as Wizarding Society this time around. I want to see the differences between the two and be immersed in a world that's hiding something magical around every corner. Number 3, our home. We need to know who we are this time. We know that we live somewhere in London. We're picked up from there in the first scene of the game. But who are we? Do we have a family? Do we not? Have we been living in an orphanage? Do we have parents that are alive? Or are we living with a godfather like Sirius Black? Maybe as we're opening the front door to our home, that's a choice we can make in the game. But whether that's a decision decided by the player or by the writers, we need to know where our home is and what our family consists of. We need to know what our backstory is. Perhaps that's a backstory that the player can choose. Or perhaps it's a backstory that the writers can create while possibly throwing in some kind of mystery. Maybe we don't know who our real parents are. Maybe we got dumped on some random stranger's doorstep and they decided to take care of us.
Do you really think it's safe? Leaving him with these people? I've watched them all day. They're the worst sort of muggles imaginable. They really are.
The only family he has.
I'll admit, this is more of a personal need for me. To satisfy this craving, I created a mod that gives you an uncle that sends you letters throughout your school year. Avalanche, reach out to me. I can be your main character's cool uncle. No, seriously, groceries are getting more expensive. I could use the money, come on. Number 4, introduce professions. This one is probably my favorite. In Hogwarts, every student is learning the same material in the same classes to pass the ordinary wizarding level exams in year 5. In year 6, though, this dynamic changes. Based on the results from your OWLs, each student is given a set of professional options. Their choice in profession dictates what classes they have to pass in order to qualify for their profession. Harry Potter wanted to be an Auror, so in year 6, he had to take potions with Professor Slughorn, and he had to take Defense Against the Dark Arts with Professor Snape, whether he wanted to or not.
Well, I had a free period this morning, Professor.
So I noticed. I would think you would want to fill it with potions. Or is it no longer your ambition to become an Auror?
Well, it was, but I was told I had to get an outstanding in my OWL.
So you did, when Professor Snape was teaching potions. However, Professor Slughorn is perfectly happy to accept new students, with exceeds expectations.
Brilliant. Well, I'll head there straight away.
Oh, good, good. Potter, take Weasley with you. He looks far too happy over there.
But here's the thing. If another student wants to be a potioneer, then they would likely take potions and herbology, but they would probably never touch Defense Against the Dark Arts. A student wanting to be an academic, charms, transfiguration, and theory of magic, maybe even some history, but they probably would not go back to the greenhouses or get their hands dirty cleaning out cauldrons in potions class. In Hogwarts Legacy, every player has the same spell library and the same toolkit. The sequel needs to organize this into different professions and compound further upon spells and tools unique to those areas of study. So let's say at the start of school, Professor Weasley says we have 5 options. We can study to be an Auror, an academic, a beast caretaker, a potioneer, or a herbalist. Those options then determine what classes we take for that school year, what additional spells we learn, and provide unique upgrades centered around that profession. This would not only boost replayability, but it would also further diversify one player from the next. So let's take 2 Hufflepuffs and 2 Ravenclaws. James could study to be an Auror, while Ben could study to be a caretaker. Lynette could be an academic, while I could be a potioneer. And although some of us might be in the same house, we will have different experiences based on our chosen area of study, both in gameplay and also potentially in the narrative. Remember how fun the house quests were? Each Hogwarts house had its own version of the Jackdaw quest. When we were playing that game, I remember everyone just sort of like hitting each other up and asking them what they did for their Jackdaw quest, and everyone's jaw dropping when they realized that Hufflepuff of everyone would be going to Azkaban. I believe this gives us an additional opportunity to have a similar experience. Number 5, reduce the map size. I know this sounds a little controversial, because when you think sequel, you naturally think it has to be bigger and better and 16 times the detail.
16 times the detail.
However, one major criticism of Hogwarts Legacy is that it gives you this beautiful, magical, wonderful castle to be in, but then the majority of the game sends you miles away from it. And I know this kind of flies in the face of the point I made about exploring London, but a sequel is still a sequel, and there's more of the Wizarding World to discover. That said, I don't think we need to cast Engorgio on the Hinterlands map. In fact, I think Reducio is in order here. I'd be happy with just a map that includes Hogwarts, Hogsmeade, the Forbidden Forest, and the lake. The rest of the digital real estate budget can be spent on Diagon Alley, the Ministry of Magic, and the streets in between. Personally, I always found density to be far more appealing in an open world game than just endless open space. But what do you think? What do you want to see in Hogwarts Legacy 2? Let me know down in the comments. I hope you enjoyed the video and thank you for watching. I think we're going to take a bit of a break from the Wizarding World content just for a little bit, just for like a couple months or so. There's no telling what we're going to see at the Xbox showcase next week, but I wanted to kind of spend June talking about some Bethesda games and whatnot. And I feel some major bombastic side-eye from my Dragon Age subscribers. So July is entirely dedicated to BioWare. Until then though, be safe, be well, be kind. Bye-bye.